Hey guys, Jack or XBadgerOG here, and I am currently having a cold, so I apologize if through this entire thing my voice is a little bit stuffy, I guess would be the word. My nasal cavities are very clogged, so if I'm a little bit nasally, my apologies for that. I am sick, please give me a break, but today I am going to be reading the fan fiction. It is called A Truth So Strange. The tags are romance. And I'm going to imagine it's about Luna because the picture's about Luna, and the description for it is, one doesn't spend 1,000 years in solitude without developing a few mental scars along the way. I've been hired to help a patient who has undergone just that. She'll need a lot of help, and so will I. So, I don't know. It seems more like something that's going to be sad, but the word romance is in there. The tag sad is not in there. The only tag it has is romance on fanfiction.com. Because that's what I use, and it gives the tags of, genres, I suppose. So that you know what Cupcakes is. If you don't know what Cupcakes is and you're about to read it, you know what you're getting into. Which is a good thing, which is why I use this website, because if I'm not in the mood for a horror fanfic, I don't want to click on something and come up to a horror fanfic and have no idea what I'm reading until I'm halfway through it and Pinkie Pie is doing some questionable things with some sharp things. So I am going to start the reading of this fanfiction. If you hear this clicking noise, I don't know if you can hear it. If you can, it's my mouse. I understand I have a very loud mouse. I have no idea why it makes such a loud noise. When I click it, it seems to come up on my microphone. But nonetheless, let's get started. Can you help my... should I do the voices? I don't think I'm going to, because I can hardly do any of them. Can you help my sister, the famous sun princess... Okay, let's restart this. Can you help my sister? The famous sun princess of Equestria, Celestia pled. She tried to pass it off as a casual request, like she was talking about the different styles of tea. Admirable attempt, but my psychologist's training let me see through that with relative ease. She was concerned. That meant that there was something seriously wrong with the former exile. Maker, the fact that she was seeking a psychologist in the Griffin country, Griffonia, yes, was a symptom that they could get their own guys on it. Now this pointed to some sort of pony phobia, or some mental condition that held race to be of value. Why? I don't know, but I'm gonna say that's piqued. But that piqued my curiosity, and getting a princess as a client wasn't exactly an everyday occurrence. I'll try, I said, rubbing the bridge of my beak with a claw. No promises. That was the Griffin way. A lot of the ponies would say something like, I'll get it fixed in a jiffy, and get more and more stressed when they found out that they couldn't. We Griffins were actually smart. No offense, my methods may be unconventional, though. Celestia smiled, but I could tell that wasn't a wan one. That was a wan one. The legend said that she was the one who kicked her. The legend said that she was the one who kicked her sister, somewhere far away. The ponies had, over time, spun their version of the legend to become more romantic and hopeful, saying that the exiled princess had gone to her source of power, but we Griffins preferred the truth, which wasn't really that descriptive. Two people separated by hundreds of kilometers in a war tended to develop in different ways. And the same could be said of civilizations. Thank you, Mr. Salas, she said as she rose from the chair opposite me and opened her saddlebags. Inwardly, I rolled my eyes at this bastardization of my name. Griffin names aren't like pony names. Instead of unique and then family, we allow the unique and then city name. Thus, my full public name would actually be Sigard Soctalis, roughly meaning the guardian of Talus, in Equestrian. I did not know that Equestrian was a language, and why don't they speak it in Equestria, then, if they have their own language? That's why a lot of non-Griffins get confused and think we're all related to one another. The surname of Talos is quite common, given that Talos is one of the larger port cities. We do have family names, but we choose to keep them hidden. One's path in life should not be determined or influenced by their bloodline, after all. The famous Griffin baker Gustave Legrand tried to do both. He kept his unique name, but added another of his own. And in my opinion, it would have gone a lot better if he'd just chosen to go with the one naming convention, but I digress. Call me Seaguard. I'm gonna go with Seaguard, is what I'm gonna call him. Call me Seaguard, I said, making a steeple of my talons. If we're going to be working together, we might as well get informal. Smiling, she picked out some documents with her magic and placed them on my desks. These are documents into Equestria. I've given you an indefinite work visa, and you'll be staying in the palace as an honored guest for as long as needed. Once again, thank you. I cracked a tired smirk of my own. Don't thank me yet, princess. I haven't even started the therapy. A princess's smile doesn't dissipate, but it didn't widen either. We should get going. The journey will take about a day. Hello, Dad. Sorry, my father just woke up and is downstairs. Hello. Okay, the princess's smile didn't dissipate, but it didn't widen either. We should get going. The journey will take about a day. Since I was a single griffin, just under the age of 30, I didn't really have a lot to my name. Just my education, my experience, and my knowledge. Clothing was simply something of a fashion statement in both countries, so I didn't even need to bring any sets with me. Still, I went around and got my travel bag, containing the essentials, documents, money in both currencies, and other assorted items. Finishing up, I smiled at Celestia, who waited in the hall with 2 of her guards. All done? Oh wait, no, all done. It was Seaguard that said that. All done. I run a home office, in case you're wondering. Saves money. Locking the wooden door felt oddly formal and final, like I had closed down one part of my life. I shook my head. Maybe the fame of my client was getting to me. The guards gave me the eye. I suppose it's because of the worsening pony-griffin relations over the last 5 years. Honestly, I don't know what it stemmed from. Politics, I guess. Most griffins hated it with passion. Talk was cheap, action spoke louder, that kind of thing. I guess they were right, but to me, politics and talking was just a more subtle, indirect form of action. Then again, I'm biased. Celestia left the door open for me as she got into the golden decorative carriage, and I ignored the stares of the griffins around me as I pounced in. Looking outwards of the cushioned interior, I could see the crowds getting thicker and thicker. Business here was going to get a boost. The guards, however, didn't seem quite as confident as before. Nervous ticks, a tilt of the head, and a shuffle of the wings. All calls to their inner feelings. Celestia raised her hoof, and the carriage shot upwards into the air. And the journey took ages. The guards were fast. I'd have to give them that. Talos was a port city, connected to Baltimore via a standardized sea route. It'd be suicide to fly for that distance. The princess had come prepared, though. She'd gotten some sort of small, steam-powered private vessel that was away as soon as my hind legs were on board. The thing itself wasn't particularly plush, and I got the impression that it was actually a military vessel, all cold silver steel and unpolished wood. No frills, the griffin's idea of perfection. Celestia started to pace. Urgency, that much was obvious. Things must have gone to Tartarus over there. Still, there was nothing I could do right now, so I just sat down with my back against a nearby deck protrusion, looking westward at her at my destination. I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to lay down because it's difficult leaning forward because I'm getting an ache in my buttock, so this is much better. We are still recording. Celestia started to... No, wait. nearby deck protrusion, looking westward at her and my destination. Baltimore stood, a gray, smoggy clump of buildings that reeked of grime and decay. So much for the equestrian dream. Beyond that, my sharp falcon's eyes picked up the shining beacon of equestrian political power, Canterlot City. At this distance, it was just a speck of gold and white against the uncaring gray of the mountain it rested against. Unreachable, untouchable, but always there, in sight. That summed up the aspirations of every poor pony, every unlucky, huddled mass of immigrants from Zebracod Mullen. They just conveniently forgot that they'd have to pass through the dirt of Baltimore and Manhattan, both literally and figuratively, before they could even touch the golden cobblestones of Canterlot. I huffed under my breath. We Griffins had always had a sense of brotherhood between ourselves. I guess it came with being one of the three omnivorous species of the world. The other two, the dragons and the rock dogs, as we called them. As we called them, were both notoriously reclusive. So we stood alone in a world full of grass-eaters and looked upon us as savages and barbarians. As they say, united we stand, divided we fall. And we choose to unite. Ponies had also been encouraged to think that way. One of their cultural legends spoke of an older time, when each pony subspecies had to work together to survive. But remember, there are many reasons why the Griffin honor was so remarkable amongst the observers of other races. Thinking back upon my people and their behaviors had killed about an hour of time, and with a sigh I realized that it was going to take more than that before we even reached the maritime border of Equestria. I diverted my attention downwards, where I found that the crew was staring at me. What? I asked irritably. I was in no mood to see if the stereotypes of pony racism were correct. The nearest sailor, a fairly bulky earth pony that was covered in soot and carbon, spoke. How do you like the ship? Odd question. Okay ship, I guess, I replied, thinking quickly. Was that a euphemism? No, didn't seem to be. Good old equestrian engineering, the earth pony said, smiling proudly as he poked the side of some compartment with his cold-covered shovel. Beat that. The crew snickered, and I lost it for a moment. Typical ponies. They never understood the fine lines of interdependence between each nation. Without griffins, the precision parts that made up the engine of the ship wouldn't have existed, and the ponies would still be stuck with Pegasus-pulled carriages as their main form of transportation. Then I somehow came to the realization that picking a fight with the burly pony in front of the ruler of Equestria wasn't exactly the smartest idea, so I fumed in silence. I'm a psychologist, not an engineer, I said, after a short pause. The pony didn't seem particularly pleased with my answer, but then he didn't seem too angry either. It was like he was trying to be offended, but he couldn't actually do the deed. After a bit of time, he went back to shoveling coal. I recast my gaze back to the city that was to be my temporary home. And the palace itself was opulent, filled to the neck with gold, paintings, and tapestry. Personally, I thought it was a bit much. The myriad of colors threatened to drown me in an overload of information. And eventually I found myself staring at the comparatively simple white and black marble on the floor, listening to the clops of footsteps of the alicorn walking beside me. Griffin eyes were made for spotting animals that tried to camouflage themselves in dense foliage. Through millions of years of magical influence, we eventually became extremely adept at spotting the smallest change in tint and color tone. That's another reason why you don't see a lot of griffins in pony towns. Pony eyes like colors, whilst griffin eyes get tired after 5 minutes of information bombardment. Okay, I'll just scroll this all the way up. I managed to get up to the private area of the castle. according to my princess guide. Without too much trouble, this is where I would be staying, and where my patient would be as well. The princess waited impatiently, shifting her weight from one side to another whilst her magical mane billowed about as if it hadn't heard of the idea of mass. I cast down my saddlebags next to the bed and rejoined her. This time the decor of the castle changed from a modest white and gold, tinged with black, to a rough stone corridor that looked as if it had been carved by magic and left unfinished. The change was quite sudden. One step we were in the opulence, the next we were surrounded by the mind-jabbed-like stone. I could see that the finish on the walls was smooth, though. I'm sorry, I'm screwing up all these words. And I think I just lost my place. Fucking beautiful. Okay, the walls was smooth, though, giving credence to my theory. The oddest thing was that it looked as if only one magician had done the carving. Had there been many, the walls would be slightly wavy, as if the ocean waves were hung up horizontally from the ceiling. This was because each magician would have a different perspective of forwards, and as such they would each carve out pieces that differed slightly from the rock base. But not this time. The walls looked ramrod straight. This meant it was the work of either princess. Tell me about the situation, I said as we walked along. The door at the far end was surrounded by guards. The shiny golden armor was a dead giveaway. Mentally unstable, suicidal, criminally insane. The nightmare was cleansed from my sister's body, Celestia said evenly, but my griffin ears could hear the slight waver in her voice. At first, I thought she was completely fine. However, I was wrong. I should have known that the wounds cut deep. She blinked a few times, and I could see the slight reflections of light that looked like miniature suns in the droplets of her tears. How fitting, I thought. Go on, I said. Go on, I said, my voice soft and solemn. This event I had lived through. There was no tampering with the legends here. On the hour of my sister's return, I thought her of sound mind, and thought she'd always been the quieter, shyer sister. I thought her lack of speech is something normal. Little did I know. I let her take as much time as she needed. She needed to regain her composure, and I definitely didn't want her on my bad side, for my health and for my business. She wasn't right. There was something that was missing, even though she looked fine. And that's why you're here, she said, finishing somewhat lamely. I'm not usually one to judge my clients, though. What about pony psychologists? I asked, clicking my claws absent-mindedly along the smooth stone floor. With such a patient, this cold could be treated as a matter of national security. I wasn't sure if accepting the offer had led to me becoming a double agent or anything. There was nothing but the usual confidentiality agreement that I'd signed. But now, come to think of it, I was surrounded by royal guards on all sides for miles. Celestia shook her head, and the motion brought me back to my senses. My sister does not respond at all. I've tried every single one I could find in Equestria, and my sister acts as if she ignores them. She sounded like she was just stating a fact, no emotion, no nothing. Acceptance. So she turned to me, for a splinter of hope born out of desperation, guilt, and self-loathing. Lucky me! I had an embryo of an idea that was wrong, but to confirm my theory, I'd have to ask the source and do some experiments along the way. The doorway out to the Night Princess's chambers lay in front. There didn't seem to be a door. The lights were out, that much was certain, and through the roughly hewn window of the far wall, I could see the faint spots of stars in the sky. How long has she been like this? I asked Celestia. 1 week, she replied. Her voice started to break as she looked at her sister. Right, better be out. I don't understand. Oh, wait. right. Better be out. I don't understand. What's going on? Something's not right. Look at her eyes. I ignored the hissing whispers of the... Oh, they were the guards. I'm sorry. I don't understand. What's going on? Something's not right. Look at her eyes. I ignored the hissing whispers of the guards in the vicinity. I shouldered my way through as I passed. All of them felt silent, sizing me up as a threat, probably. Celestia didn't appear to have heard them. Such was her grief. Even in the dark, my griffin eyes could easily pick up slight differences in the shade that separated Luna from her bed, and the bed from the floor. Blame it on being half cat and half bird of prey. Our eyes are all awesome. As I entered the room proper, the princess didn't appear to have noticed me yet, and so I examined the furnishings, or rather, the lack of furnishings. Unusual for a princess. Then again, it was even more unusual for one to have done something deserving of exile. That meant I couldn't just compare her to any normal standard of princess. Stone looked like the main motive. Stone bed, stone walls, stone floor. The room was uniformly gray in all directions, except for the blue alicorn sitting in the middle of the bed. I think I know where the romance tag is going now, and I think I'm starting to like it. Okay, back to the story. Except for the blue alicorn sitting in the middle of her bed. She wasn't like her sister, that was for sure. For one, she was smaller, about the midpoint between Celestia and the average pony. For two, her hair didn't attempt to float away, but rather just looked like a mop of fine cyan strings. In short, she looked like a normal pony, except for the wings and horn, and the size. Once I entered the room, the princess of the night instantly raised her head and stared at me. I mean stared. It was quite disconcerting, to say the least, and they say that the griffin's glare is intimidating. Blinking in order to avoid getting into a staring contest, I waved a claw. Hey. It wasn't exactly protocol dealing with princesses, but I wasn't exactly a conventional psychologist. Her mouth opened just a bit, revealing a row of white, flat teeth. I guess dental hygiene wasn't a problem in her exile. She was quite bony, too, compared to her sister's curvy physique. Luna looked like she draped her skin over a thin smattering of muscle and fat. It wasn't so bad that her ribs were jutting out, but it wasn't exactly a healthy look either. She lit her horn. I didn't know what for. The aura radiated off to me, trying to pull me towards her. Thanks to the griffin's race, naturally magic-resistant body, I held my ground. You know, you could just ask me to come closer, I said once she stopped trying. The seed of a theory I'd grew into a sapling, just a few more tries. Griffin, she stated simply, without any trace of detectable emotion. Her face didn't change either. She just squinted. Pony, I returned sitting on my haunches a few steps away, just near the edge of the bed. From the way of shadows on the wall changed, I could tell that a few guards had moved closer, checking me out. Clearly none of them trusted me enough. So much for patient confidentiality. She scooted over to the side of the bed, closer to me. Her wings finished fluttering, and refolded to the side once she'd arrived at her destination. I could see that the feathers were matted and fluffed. She hadn't been taking good care of her wings, though. And then she stretched out a hoof and hit me on the beak. Ow! I screeched, involuntarily flaring my wings. What gives? In hindsight, that wasn't a very good idea. The clanking of armor made me whirl around, and I came face to face with 5 stony-faced guards, all with extended spears. I've done my 4 years of mandatory military service, and just like any other griffin, but I wasn't a soldier, and even if I was, the numbers were titled against me. Ah, shit. I could see Luna shut her eyes. No, more like crushed her eyelids together. And wait, 5 seconds later, she blinked them open. A soft emerged from her throat, and she waved her front hooves around. Down, noble knights. We do not require assistance. I guess the guards were just confused. Were just as confused as I was, because for another second no one moved. Luna's slow breaths echoed around the room, and for once I had begun to seriously contemplate my direction in life. High-profile clients were a pain in the rear to deal with. I should have known. What happened, princess? One of the guards said. He was wearing a nice set of purple-painted, gilded armor that looked custom-made. Probably a high ranker. His name, plate red armor. As for the others, they all looked like they had been made in some factory, so I didn't bother learning their names. Not important. Not in my view. Huh? She replied, blinking distractedly. It was then that I noticed that she was staring at her own hooves. Sorry, I just lost my place. It was then that I noticed that she was staring at her own hooves and looking wildly around. Oh, what was the question? Armor frowned just a tad. If I were a pony, I would have missed it, but a griffin's eyes were sharp, and I could see the faint creasing around his mouth increase in magnitude. What just happened, Princess? Wait. What just happened, Princess Luna? I hit him, she replied, pointing a hoof at me. Her voice was still in motion. Liz, do not worry, all is normal. Armor and the other guards still stared at me for a moment. I stared back. Eyes are so interesting, are they not? Windows into the soul. Be gone, Luna intoned, as if she was simply asking for a sandwich. Armor and company nodded slowly before backing away into the doorway out of the room. I didn't know whether she meant me as well, so in the infamous Griffin bluntness, I went and asked, me too? She shrugged and continued to look at me. Sorry, let me clear my throat. We are still recording. I'd say at this point I'm maybe about halfway through. I'd say. She shrugged and continued to look at me. Deciding that I'd gathered enough information from my current position, I made to get up and walked over a few steps to her left. Her eyes followed my every moment. To say that it was creepy was an understatement. We never expected this, she said quite suddenly, and I flicked my head towards her. Griffin, here to talk rather than fight. Then, that why you hit me? Oh, is that why you hit me? I muttered, rubbing the yellow keratin. The pain was gone, but the ghost of the sting stubbornly remained. Damn stereotypes. Still, she literally was 1,000 years behind the times. No, she said, shaking her head. A bit redundant, but then again, this one had been in insulation for 1,000 years. I cut her some slack. We did not expect thee. I think I knew what was wrong. A sapling of suspicion I mentioned earlier had grown into a fully mature tree, and the fruits of my labor were ready to drop into my claws. Still, some more time had to guess couldn't go wrong. If I hit her with my guess, she could unconsciously fake symptoms to match, or simply deny it and try to avoid the problem. It was one of those things I hated about my career. Right, I applied, narrowing my eyes. Wait, what does that mean? We thought that would have been a pony. So much for socio-cultural progress, apparently. We were still barbarians stuck in the Stone Age. I rolled my eyes. Did you think I'd be carrying a big axe around with me as well? For your information, we've long since graduated from unwieldy melee weapons. Since the invention of firearms, current military doctrine was to keep your distance. Luna nodded without a purse or hesitation. Great. Well, at least she was willing to listen, and not gut me instantly with that horn of hers. You're not what I expected from a princess either, I replied. Perhaps a bit too harshly in hindsight. What does that mean? She returned, frowning. Bingo! I'll see you a week later, I said, ignoring her last question. I waved myself out. Little did she know I had no intention of doing it. This almost confirmed my suspicions, the disparity between her expectations and what she got. The act of whacking my beak, the staring, all this pointed to some form of mental disconnect from the world. Celestia was the first to stop me as I popped out of the room. Well, looks like schizophrenia, I replied, flicking my tail idly. She can't tell what's real and what is in her head. For all she knows, the pony psychologist you sent could have been a figment of her own imagination. She didn't expect me, that's why she talked to me, and I'm pretty sure she didn't expect what I said either. Celestia seemed wordless, for once. Her mouth flapped up and down before snapping shut in a muffled whump. The stone room seemed to lose some of its glow, as did her skin. Leave us, she said, as she returned to the guards. None of them attempted. Leave us, she said, as she turned to the guards. None of them attempted to protest. Well, at least they knew who actually ran the country. Waiting until the clank of armor had faded into the background noises of the castle in operation, she turned once again to me, making to close the door of her sister's room. I held up a claw and shook my hand. She'll expect that. I can't keep reintroducing myself. Oh, she'll expect that. I can't keep reintroducing myself, I whispered, stopping Celestia in mid-stride. She turned back to me reluctantly. Is it going to get better? I sighed and shrugged. It's 1,000 years, princess. 1,000 years with nothing to do but get lost in her own imagination. I can't promise anything. Celestia's facade seemed to crack just then. I spotted a wobble in the corners of her mouth, and then a sudden gathering of moisture along the edges of her large eyes. Coughing quietly, I averted my eyes back to the lonely doorway in Mother's room. Please, bring her back, she murmured, then more throatily than before. I'll try, I replied, still staring at the door. Wow, that was really, really good. Just, wow, I really like that. We've been recording for about 33 minutes. That was part 1. I'm imagining that they'll come out with more 2. I hope. Yes, no, maybe so. To Mr. Who's made this? I can't tell. Let me go to his file. It's not coming up with a name. Oh. Mr. New 813, probably Noob 13, spelled with an 8. Mr. New 813, please continue this. Wow, that was just absolutely fantastic. I want to finish it right now. Write more. I love the story. Amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I'll probably do more fanfic readings. I might read a different one right now for you guys. Maybe I'll upload like one every 2-3 days. I don't know. I'll probably figure out a schedule for it. But nonetheless, I will see you guys later. Have a beautiful day, you beautiful fucking people. I love you all. The 2 of you that actually will watch this. And the 1 of you that will actually finish it. But nonetheless, I will see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed my reading. If you want to read it yourself, it is A Truth So Strange by N00813. on if I go on fanfiction.net is the one that I use for all of my fanfics actually. So I will see you guys next time. Peace out. I love your faces. I will see you next time. I totally just copied Philip DeFranco's outro without even realizing it. Okay, drop the bass cannon. I will see you guys later. Wub wub wub.